Hey everybody, it's GoblinX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today I'm going to be playing another run through the May 2023 Qualifier Play-In Event. This is going to be a best of one March the Machine sealed event where we're competing for entry into the upcoming Qualifier Weekend next Saturday and Sunday. We'll be competing until we hit 6 wins or 2 losses and getting an escalating amount of gems as prizes along the way. Without further ado, let's bust open our packs and see what we get to play with today. Alright, here's a look at the rares and the mythics for the sealed pool. Today looks like some decent stuff overall. In blue we have a Fairy Mastermind, very nice, 2 mana 2/1 flash flyer is already good, and they potentially draw you some extra cards when your opponent's drawing cards, and give you a built-in ability to force your opponent to draw an extra card when you do so. For 4 mana later in the game, if you use this during your opponent's turn, you get to draw 2 cards and your opponent draws 1. So pretty nice stuff with Fairy Mastermind. There's also Invasion of Karsus for a miniature little board wipe in red, and City on Fire for a pretty big, pretty expensive finisher, but it is going to really get a ton of damage in out of nowhere. It can definitely end a game. We then have Glistening Dawn in green, which is exceptional, a very late game play, but it can provide you with 2 gigantic incubators. Atris, Oracle of Half-Truths is a very good card advantage or value play in blue-black. 4 mana for a 3/2 menace, so it immediately impacts the board while drawing you 2 or 3 cards based on this little sub-game that you play with your opponent. Or just 1 or 2 cards, but still good value there. There's Zirda the Dawnwaker, which is a fine 3 mana 3/3 that can shut off some blockers. Not a card you often get to play as the companion though, certainly not in sealed. Then we have Jeru and Hazaret, 5 mana 5/4 with potentially Vigilance and Haste, that could pull out some other legends from our deck, usually not the most exciting thing ever, but if we're in red and white, can be a fine addition to the deck. And last but not least, we have Invasion of Ravnica, which is basically a 5 mana colorless sorcery removal spell for any deck we end up playing. This can exile almost any non-land permanent, and if we manage to flip this battle by dealing 4 damage to it, we get to get a 5/5 on the board at minimum, and potentially get a little bit of more value off of it if we have a lot of 2-color cards in our deck. So mainly for the front half of this, just a 5 mana sorcery removal spell for any deck. But we can flip it into a 5/5 with basically no text, which is also good. So do like having that Invasion of Ravnica a lot. We'll probably play that in anything that we play. My favorite rares here would probably be like going to blue-black with this Fairy Mastermind maybe, or blue-green with Glistening Dawn. I like Glistening Dawn, Atris, and Fairy Mastermind a whole lot as rares. Karsus and City on Fire probably the next best after those 3. And then the Zirda and Jeru and Hazaret are a little more filler, a little more whatever. But yeah, my favorite are definitely the Sultai rares here, but nice to have a little spread of rares to choose from based on what colors seem the best in the sealed pool. So let's take a look at our multicolored cards now, see if any of these push us to a specific archetype. Decent start to a blue-white Knights deck with Marshal of Zhalfir and Invasion of Xyrex. In blue-black we have Rona, which is pretty filler. Red-white we have Rayev, which really depends on how many equipment we got in our sealed pool. Usually not a lot. And that's it. Alright, not a lot of multicolored cards. That doesn't really change things too much then. We've got 3 dual lands, 2 red ones, 2 green ones, 1 black and 1 white, so no blue duels. It's red, white, green, black, a little bit of overlap there. Alright, interesting stuff. Check out our colorless cards, just Invasion of Ravnica basically. No Skittering Surveyors, which is pretty sad. Haven't been opening up a lot of those lately. And there's 2 Phyrexian Archivist, which are just too slow to be super playable. Once you hit really high mana costs in this format, you want that to be reserved for some really explosive plays, and Archivists are certainly not that, so pretty much nothing in colorless outside of our Invasion of Ravnica, so we'll start looking at each color individually now. Start getting some color power rankings for what seems the best. And right now I gotta tell you, our white creatures look pretty terrible. They start at 3 mana, and Attentive Skywarden does very little for its mana cost. Even if you do have a good amount of incubators, it's not that hard to find the mana to flip them. And there's 2 Aeronaut, which is only good if you have a nice aggressive curve of creatures below it, which we don't in white, so we would really need our other color to have a good aggressive curve for white to be playable. And the 2 Defectors are just really, really slow and dirtily. Don't really play that well. When you're looking at our non-creature spells, we've also got a Scroll Shift that's slow and dirtily. Invasion of Belanon is often a 3-mana 2/2 because 5 toughness or 5 defense is a whole lot to get this battle flipped. It feels like it's always taking too long. It's basically a 3-mana 2/2, which is pretty bad. This combat trick is fine. These removal spells are fine, though. But overall, white is looking pretty awkward. Not a huge fan of the color in this sealed pool. Checking out our blue now. Definitely some mediocre stuff in here. I haven't been super impressed by Invasion of Kamigawa. I liked this a lot when the format first started because theoretically the idea is you play this, stun something to get an attack in to immediately flip it. But that actually doesn't play out that way super often. Board states can get really cluttered really fast. And even if you immediately flip it, this card just isn't that impactful on either side. The best battles are either really worth the mana cost on the front half or really worth the mana cost on the back. And these are both kind of mediocre. Like 4 mana just to stun a creature is really bad. And 4 mana for a 2/3 flyer that might draw cards when it hits your opponent is okay. It's decent. It's not like a massive reward for flipping the battle. So been pretty unimpressed by Invasion of Kamigawa. I've gotten burnt by that a lot. There's also Furtive Analysts, which are played really slow and dirtily, and I'm not a huge fan of them. But on the other hand, we have Breeding Champion and Fairy Mastermind for really good cheap flyers, and a couple Tidal Terrors, which are really nice land cyclers because they can be big ways to close out the game in a board stall where you and your opponent are staring at each other. These get that extra ability to become unblockable. It's actually pretty nice. It makes it so either halves of the card's great, getting an island when you need it, or getting a big unblockable creature to end the game. Our spells are all solid. Simulate Essence. Shapecraft is probably the most mediocre of the spells, but they're all certainly playable at least. So I like our blue better than our white, but it has similar problems. There's not a lot of creatures here. Sure, I have an Expedition Lookout and a couple Furtive Analysts I could play, but they're pretty dang weak creatures, so we would be, again, wanting a secondary color with really good creatures and maybe weaker non-creature spells. And that's how we could get the two colors to mesh pretty well together. Looking at our black now, well, this might be the kind of color we were looking for because that is a large quantity of creatures. Let's see how good they are, shall we? I do like Aetherblade Agent as a Death Toucher to trade into any size creature later in the game. If you ever get in the offensive position, you get to start drawing cards when this hits your opponent, which is beautiful. Double Blight Reaper Thallid are exceptional. They play the offense and defense really well by making a wide board state when you flip them and just being kind of beefy when you flip them on the aggressive. Dreg Recycler's solid, especially with 2 Blight Reaper Thallids to give us expendable Saprolings. 2 Nezumi Informants give us more great cheap expendable creatures. These are always at least a 1-for-1 immediately by making your opponent discard a card when they hit the board. So even if you play it and just chump block with it, they've paid for themselves in terms of card advantage versus card disadvantage, in terms of the card economy, TM. At 3 mana, we have Completed Huntmaster, which is solid with 2 Nezumi Informant and 2 Blight Reaper Thallids, so I think I would play it in here. Then there's Flitting Gorilla, which is just fine filler. Ichor Shade's kind of mediocre filler. Oilcaster also mediocre slow filler, same with Aetherborn, and then Yargle not really playable unless you have a ton of ways to give it evasion, which I don't think we will, because if you don't have a lot of ways to give this evasion, you're going to spend 5 mana on a 9/3 that trades down into your opponent's 2 mana 3/1 in their white deck that they have at common, or their 2 mana 3/1 in their green deck that they have at common, or their 2 mana 3 damage burn spell in red that they have at common. What I'm getting at is there are a lot of commons that are only 2 mana that will trade into your 5 mana creature, and that's not even saying the vast majority of 3 mana like commons and 4 mana commons trade into it too. So Yargle's really cool looking, but you really need a reason to play Yargle. Yargle does not just slam into the deck, and it wouldn't slam in here. So I like black a lot. Tons of creatures. Our non-creature spells aren't great. We only have Vanquish the Weak for removal. So far, our removal in the sealed pool looks really weak. White had our best removal, but white was a really mediocre color overall. In black, we only have a Vanquish the Weak, but we have really good creatures. Also, this Bladed Battle Fan is a pretty solid combat trick because it's going to help us win 1 combat and leave behind something we can sacrifice to our Dreg Recycler or our completed Huntmaster, which is nice. Can also trigger an Ichor Shade when we're sacrificing it. That's pretty cool. Corrupted Conviction could make the cut in here. We got plenty of expendable stuff, so just solid amount of creatures in black, a good sacrifice theme going on. I like the black. I like the black a good amount. Checking out our red now. Red we would be playing pretty much entirely for Invasion of Karsus and City on Fire. We've got a Shatter the Source for one more removal spell. We have a decent land cycler with Furnace Host Charger, but the depth guards are really bad without synergy. Lithomantic Barrage I don't think is super main deckable. And pretty much all these 2-drops are quite filler. The 4-drops are filler as well. A lot of filler in red, but we do have Invasion of Karsus and City on Fire, which could be kind of exciting, but actually not that into it. I still like black the most out of every color. Red, I'll say red's like tied with blue. Blue has less cards, but I like blue's rares better than red's, especially for blue-black where we get to play Atris. Then we get to play Atris and the Fairy Mastermind over City on Fire, Invasion of Karsus. I think those are just 2 better cards. Taking a look at our final color now, we're checking out our green, which looks solid. Yeah, no huge reason to be in the color, but we've got a removal spell with Tandem Takedown. Oh, we do have Glistening Dawn, maybe green-black actually. There is a huge reason to be in the color, Glistening Dawn. Forgot about that card. Yeah, that's excellent. There's a lot more green cards than there were blue, so maybe green-black over blue-black. We've got a removal spell here with Tandem Takedown for interaction. Storm the Seed Core could find a kill out of nowhere, especially if we have a lot of creatures on board, which we definitely can in a green-black deck, because we have so many black creatures in the sealed pool. Tangled Skyline's a really good way to stabilize late game, giving us a ton of life gain and a 5/5 reach. Actually, pretty big fan of green. Green and black looking phenomenal in the sealed pool. Yeah, that's pretty exciting. I'm going to take a look at our multicolored cards again and see what all overlapped with different colors here. So we had a few red-white cards, but none of them are incredible, and I don't think a red-white deck looks very good in the sealed pool. Same with a couple blue-white cards. And then in blue-black, Rona is very filler. Atris is pretty good. Atris is a good reason to try to go blue-black, but nothing green-black. Nothing green at all. So the main thing I want to keep in mind is Atris for the most part. Taking a peek at that blue-black, but green-black makes a lot of sense to me here, and I think it sounds pretty good. I want to take a look at green-black first, as a deck that might be pretty ideal for the sealed pool. Something to mention yet again before I really get into the green-black deck, because we do want to keep 3-color decks in mind in this format, especially when you have mana fixing, but that's the thing I wanted to mention here. We have 0 mana fixing spells out of green, 0 colorless mana fixing spells. We only have land cyclers and not very many of them, and then a few dual lands. So this again doesn't feel like a sealed pool that can consistently play 3-color well. Can maybe splash a tiny bit of a 3rd color, but gonna definitely have mana issues in any deck that's trying to splash in the sealed pool. So I'm not super high on that. I guess I do have 1 Kami of Whispered Hopes in here for a tiny bit of mana fixing. Like a little bit worth mentioning. Maybe splash in blue for an Atris. Yeah, maybe we could try to splash in blue for the Atris and the Fairy Mastermind. Could be a thing. Overgrown Pest can try to find a blue source as well, but it only digs 5 cards deep instead of looking through the whole library. Alright, so we cut 10 cards out of here. I don't like the Yargle. I haven't been super impressed by Renata without a ton of synergy. Sure, we've got a Kami of Whispered Hopes, but usually Renata just hits the board after you've already curved out with a bunch of 2s and 3s, and then you're not even getting much counters out of her. Kind of just a 3 toughness, 4 mana card, which is pretty bad. Oilcaster's pretty slow, Aetherborn's pretty slow. I don't know about double Sailback. I might play 1, like 1's main deckable enough. Carapace is horrific. Atrax's Fall probably doesn't make the cut. Revelation probably doesn't. Conviction and Adaptation are maybes. Let's cut all these just immediately. I'll keep one sail back in for now. Still need to cut 2 more cards at that point. I think I'm pretty okay with Kami of Whispered Hopes because it can ramp into some of our big 4 or 5 mana plays if we want to. Not that there's a ton of those, but it can help dump our hand a little early, and it also does synergize with Glistening Dawn, Tangled Skyline, Incubation, Storm the Seed Core, Chomping Kavu backup, Serpent Blade Assailant backup. Like, there's cards that it can get extra counters with, which could be fine. Probably cut the Blade Master as our worst 2 or 3 mana creature. Requires a lot of extra mana to dump into it to do much. Hiker Shade's pretty slow, but got a decent sack theme going on. Yeah, I kind of like this just aggressive green-black deck with one big Glistening Dawn at the top end. We definitely keep the adaptation in here. Combat trick to keep the pressure on our opponent. 16 creatures, 9 non-creatures. Yeah, pretty aggro Golgari pile. Yeah, this is 16 creatures with a Tangled Skyline and Glistening Dawn being kind of 17 and 18, but they're big expensive. 17th and 18th creatures. Yeah, we can definitely cut Blade Master. I like Iker Shade in here. It's probably kind of dumb and silly, but I like it with Bladed Battle Fan. Or not Bladed Battle Fan, but Dreg Recycler completed Huntmaster stuff. The kind of stuff that sacks the Bladed Battle Fan. And I guess it gets extra counters with Kami of Whispered Hopes, potentially. Corrupted Conviction's another way to sack something. Could we go 16 lands in here? Probably not. Average mana cost 3, and we want to have a lot of lands out for Glistening Dawn. Maybe I cut the Flitting Gorilla, and we just try to be aggressive enough that we don't really care about blocking flyers. Creature Battle back on top. Yeah, this is basically a 3-mana 2/2 flyer with very little text, because none of our creatures or battles are that valuable that we need to toss them back on top for later. We don't have a bomb creature or a bomb battle. I guess if I mill an Invasion of Ravnica, but the odds of us playing an Invasion of Ravnica, flipping it, and then having the 5/5 die are so monstrously low. This is basically never going to get returned with a Gorilla unless I mill it to it. It doesn't feel like it happens too often. I guess I have like no reach now, but I can still have the Skyline late game to block flyers, a takedown, an adaptation. Adaptation for a surprise block, tandem takedown to kill one, vanquish the weak can kill most flyers. If our opponent has a flyer that has more than 3 power, Flitting Gorilla is not going to do anything about it either. But we could Blade Battle Fan on aggressive attacks. Just try to outrace them and pressure them before any flyers do anything super nasty. I think this deck has an aggressive enough curve and some good combat trick stuff going on that I don't really want to try that blue splash. Even though it might be possible, I don't think it looks great because our blue spells aren't spectacular off the splash. They're a lot better turn 2, turn 4 than they are later in the game, and we don't have any blue dual lands. And yeah, the only mana fixer we have is Kami of Whispered Hopes, so it would be something we could try, but it would be some awkward mana, unless I play some Tidal Terrors, but this is basically the equivalent of just playing more islands, because we would never have double blue to cast this anyway, so we might as well play islands instead of playing islands that require us to spend 2 mana to dig them out. At that point, I'm just running this as Island 2 and Island 3. I should just run Island 2 and 3. So I don't think that Island Cycler even really helps us splash blue. At that rate, yeah, no duels to help. Yeah, I don't really think I want to go Golgari Splash Blue. I think I want to just go Golgari, potentially. Alright, I'm going to save that deck. That looks pretty good and probably like what I'm going to go with. But I do want to take a quick peek at some other potential archetypes. See how our blue-black looks for sure. Here's a look at the blue-black, and I've got an issue. And the issue is that this deck looks pretty good too. We don't have a Glistening Dawn anymore, but we have an Atris and a Fairy Mastermind to make up for it. We don't have the Tandem Takedown anymore, but we have an Assimilate Essence and a Temporal Cleansing instead. This is really equivalent to that green-black deck. Maybe even just more consistent. I love that curve up from 2 to 4. That looks really nice. The Invasion of Rin to dig through the library looking for a more impactful play. I guess we don't really have a bomb, quote unquote. We just have really good card draw from our rares that can make sure that we just have more things to play than our opponent with Atris and Fairy Mastermind. Use those cards to get ahead in card advantage and go from there. Does seem pretty powerful. I guess we are kind of relying on Tidal Terrors to close out the game if the board gets stalled, or an Astral Wingspan to buff something up into a big flyer. I love the Preening Champion Fairy Mastermind spells in blue. This looks really good, but so does our green-black. Both look like very legitimate decks. Let's take another quick scroll through our colors here. Yeah, white has like no creatures pretty much that are any good. Still really don't like the red much. Sure, Invasion of Karsus and City on Fire could be real, but all our other red cards are just really mediocre in my opinion. The green has more explosive plays. The green has more ways to actually try to end the game. Cards like Storm the Seed Core and Glistening Dawn. And it's not like it's completely out of card advantage, because it's got like Overgrown Pest. It's still got a Corrupted Conviction in there. Green's better at ending the game for sure. I think if I had a bit more interaction, I would go for the blue-black, but I guess I do have the Invasion of Ravnica I didn't put in here yet. Ideally, this kind of blue-black deck that's really good at coming ahead in value needs to have a good amount of really nice targeted interaction, like a couple Deadly Derisions, maybe a Merciless Repurposing. But we have a Vanquish the Weak that only kills small things, and then a Temporal Cleansing for a temporary kill, and an Assimilate Essence for a kill if we have it at the right time, and then our one Invasion of Ravnica as our unconditional removal spell. I feel like I need more unconditional removal. Like the -2/-2 that could give -6/-6 is enough to kill almost anything. Deadly Derision certainly is, Merciless Repurposing is. If we had a few of those, I'd be really confident in this blue-black list, because then we can guarantee that we are winning the game in the end just by grinding them out with little 2/2s and 2/3s and stuff. But without that much removal and that much interaction to play at nice times, I think I'd rather just play the black-green deck that has more cards that can very clearly attempt to end the game earlier. Because we just grind out into a long game, like we have to worry about Atalis and Elesh Norns and stuff like this in this format that we just do not have a lot of interaction to deal with in either deck. I think I would rather hedge my bets towards the more aggressive strategy and go that way, but could certainly see the blue-black deck being pretty good as well. I think it looks pretty much just as strong as the green-black, but I had to choose between the two. I think I'm going to narrow it down to that green-black for the more aggressive focus that it has. I guess at that point I could try to splash in the Glistening Dawn for like one way to really have a big bomb to end this game, but splashing in a double green card is a little hard to do. When it's a double green card, I don't have to play until incredibly late in the game. Obviously, green mana fixing doesn't help me splash green in, because I would have to already draw the color to get there. So we have a Jungle Hollow to help, that's about it. Yeah, that might be the better version of the blue-black. It's like this plus a Glistening Dawn at the top. I can get there, but I didn't get any Force Cyclers. Although at that point I'd probably just run more forests. Yeah, like no Skittering Surveyor. Not even having a Flywheel Racer is kind of devastating to our hopes of splashing in green. Yeah, this could be a real thing, but again, I'm going to go for the green-black deck. I'm going to take one last look through these colors. I am kind of smashing the two together in my head. I don't want to look through literally every two color pair every time I play a sealed event. So I do look through the colors multiple times and in my head kind of glue them together and see if there's any other decks that look like they'd be a good two-color pair. So I am thinking of all the different archetypes, what they would look like, but they don't look that good to me. Even if I'm not showing full-on every two-color deck, definitely keeping them in mind. I've gotten some comments about that before. Why didn't you look at this color pair? It's like, I guarantee you I did think of the color pair and how the cards would merge together. Just don't want to spend 2 hours showing off every color pair in the deck building. Yeah, I'm pretty confident on green-black or blue-black here, and I'm going to roll for the green-black. Alright, here's a look at our finished deck for today. It's going to be a green-black aggro deck, good curve of a lot of 2 and 3 mana creatures, with some combat tricks to back them up to get in for as much damage as we can in the early game with Arachnoid Adaptation and Bladed Battle Fan. And then once we get later in the game, try to keep the path clear with Vanquish the Weak Tandem Takedown, maybe find a victory with a Storm the Seed Core, getting a bunch of extra damage in, and playing some pretty big spells like Tangled Skyline to stabilize and get a massive creature, and Glistening Dawn for a really massive bomb. We've got some sacrifice synergies going on with cards like Completed Huntmaster, alongside 1/1s like Nezumi Informant, and Saprolings off of the Blight Reaper Thallid. That also works with Bladed Battle Fan, where we'll leave behind an expendable artifact to sacrifice. And we've got Corrupted Conviction, which works with all of those expendable cards as well, to give us a bit of card draw. So green-black aggro, bit of a sacrifice sub-theme, pretty solid stuff on curve, and then some big explosive late game with Glistening Dawn, Tangled Skyline, and Storm the Seed Core to try to close things out. That is the deck we're going to be playing today. Without further ado, let's head into the gameplay and see how it does. Here we are on the play for game 1. Definitely a slower hand, but we've got both of our colors, which is nice. We've got a Kami of Whispered Hopes on turn 3 to ramp into one of our 5 drops if we hit land number 4 by then. We can play one of these on turn 4. So certainly looking like it's going to be a slower game. And we do just hit another land here, so just roll out the Kami of Whispered Hopes, hoping for no removal from our opponent. And there's a Fairy Mastermind from them, so they're going to get it started quickly with an aggressive flyer. Hit us for 2, we're down to 18, and they drop an Ichor Drinker as well. They have 1 mana up. Definitely not a counter spell here. Do I just Invasion of Ravnica and kill the Mastermind? It doesn't really seem necessary if I can just get a gigantic reach creature, so we'll go for the Tangled Skyline here. Gain 1,000,000 life and have a potential 6/6 with reach. There's an Invasion of Kamigawa. They can't hit it for 4 here, but they can hit it for 3. And that is what they're going to do. They do get to lock down our Incubator. Got the mana to play an Invasion of Ravnica to exile the Fairy Mastermind. And then I just trade Kami of Whispered Hopes into Ichor Drinker. I don't love that, but keeping this Invasion of Kamigawa from flipping could be worth it, because they'll probably have removal for my 6/6 reach later. I don't really want to tandem take down the Fairy Mastermind when I could tandem take down the Invasion later to have a 5/5 come out as well. I think I'm okay to give up on Kami of Whispered Hopes here. We've gotten all we need out of the mana from it. I guess I could exile the Invasion itself. I think getting rid of Fairy Mastermind is perfectly reasonable too. If things get super explosive here and they do get the Invasion flipped, we can take it down. Yeah, I think I'd rather trade into this than let them flip that right now. Another Invasion of Kamigawa. Well, so much for having a 6/6 untapped here. Can't afford to hold up Tandem Takedown after playing this Hermit. That would be excellent, because then we could really know that we have a blocker for that 2/2, but it is what it is. Orobi Death's Wail. Whenever a creature becomes a target of a spell or ability, destroy the creature. Okay. Well, so Tandem Takedown doesn't work as long as Orobi's on board? That is quite rude. We have to target our creatures, which means they'll just die. Oh, I could use the Hulk to just kill the Hirobi. Okay. I think that's the plan then. Let's flip the incubator. Up to one other target creature. We can target our opponent's creature. Let's see if they let me do my thing. Because I can't hold up Tandem Takedown right now. All it is 3 mana to blow up my own creatures. Which is not exactly worth it. I also can't back up on my own card or they'll kill it. Alright. They're just gonna scoop it up. Definitely part of why I don't love Hirobi Death's Wail. There's just a lot of random ways that it can let your opponent just kill it. You could have a lot of ways in your own deck to, have a bunch of combat tricks of your own that'll then be removal spells on opponent's creatures, but it is a double-edged sword. We can just attack with the Hulk and blow up their Hirobi, and they just scoop it up on the spot. We're going to be 1-0 heading into Game 2. Here we are in Game 2. Opponent's on the play, so we'll probably be a little on the defensive here. So happy to have a 2-mana 1/1 Death Toucher. Both of our colors at the ready. Conviction if they try to removal spell something. We at least get some card draw out of it. Looks reasonable. They're going to start with a Jungle Hollow, turn 1. So green, black, and blue. There's a Portent Tracker to untap a land when they need to. Pretty excellent card. Haven't opened up any of those in our sealed pools this time around, unfortunately. Would have been pretty solid. Oh my god. Chrome Host Seed Shark, this needs to get killed ASAP, otherwise they're just going to get a bunch of incubates every time they cast any non-creature spells, so we need to get to 5 mana immediately. A Silent doesn't really do anything on board, so I think I'd rather just play a Jungle Hollow and hold up Conviction. Get our tap land out of the way now so I can go Kavu on 4 and Ravnica on 5. Regardless of what I draw into. If they have non-creature spells right now, this Seed Shark could just completely take the game immediately. It's 4 mana to flip the Aetherblade Agent, so I couldn't even try to maybe get a draw card attack in this turn. Yep, Jungle Hollow and pass it is. I think it's the best we've got here. Again, locking in a turn 4 Kavu into turn 5 Invasion of Ravnica. Well, there you have it. That's pretty deadly. 2 incredible blue rares in a row. Now the Invasion of Segovia. A 3-mana battle that gives you 2 1/1s to help attack it and does some atrociously strong things when it flips, allowing them to convoke to cast their non-creature spells and untap 4 creatures in their end step. Shouldn't have to say it, but this card is busted with Chrome Host Seed Shark, because then they can start convoking with all their incubators and 1/1s and getting more incubators for all those cards they're convoking out. And yeah, we're not going to be able to protect this well against the flyer. They can already just kill it in 2 swings. Am I at the point I have to Conviction my agent, just hoping for a Vanquish the week? Even then, now they're going to flip an Invasion of Segovia. I think I just keep this on board. At least trade into a 1/1 maybe. Guess I can Assailant to make it a 2/2, but I could also just Assailant and make that a 3/3. I'm just going to play Kavu next turn. We've got removal, it's just too slow for this rollout from our opponent. Glistening Dawn's not going to do it for us. Doesn't do much right now. Later in the game it will be pretty powerful. But I really don't know how much later we're going to have. Actually, this game will probably last a while no matter what. The problem is, yeah. The problem is our opponent gets the use all of their mana on like a pretty good non-creature spell every turn, and get a 3/3, and then use all their mana and get a 4/4. And then now they could play a 4-mana non-creature spell, get another 4/4 incubate, and then untap everybody. Okay, alright. Well, we have made it to 5 mana. I think I need to kill the Chromos Seed Shark. If they have a counter spell, they can cast it because they all have Convoke now. If they have the Hexproof Trick creature, they can't use it, so at least there's that going for us. Okay. Did get rid of the Seed Shark, but they can still Convoke anything out, and they still give basically 4 creatures get Vigilance every turn. They don't have any battles to attack currently, unless they drop one out on us. Do I go for a Kavu attack on Invasion to put it to 1? It's not like we have an excellent way to get 1 extra damage into the battle later anyway. Like, I'm pretty sure they would just let the Kavu hit the battle rather than trading Cadus off. So if I really want to put this battle to 1, that would be fine, but again, then I need to find a way to get 1 damage in against 3 1/1s, a 3/3, potentially another 3/3 and a 4/4, which is just not really going to happen, so it's probably better to just hold Kavu up and have more blockers for their crackback than it is to put this Invasion to 1. Yeah, a 4 defense Invasion of Ravnica is going to be pretty much just as hard to flip as a 1 defense, because I'm fairly certain the only way we're going to flip it throughout this game when they can untap 4 creatures a turn is if we draw into our Tandem Takedown that can just shoot it for 4 damage anyway. So tap all their mana for Meeting of Minds rather than Convoking. It's interesting. They could have Convoked and spent all their mana to flip 2 of their 2/2s, and then just untapped everybody they Convoked with. Maybe they have something else to Convoke. Invasion of Gobakon. Yeah, that's a pretty good card. It's a battle to flip. If they manage to flip this battle, they get a +1/+1 counter on all of their creatures that attacked every turn. They can also counter a board wipe, giving their whole board hexproof indestructible at any point, or counter any good blocks that we set up. So that is pretty strong. Okay. So they make Glistening Dawn more expensive, but that's okay. I still probably wasn't going to play it for a little while. Play a Serpent Blade Assailant now. I mean, I guess because they spent all of their mana instead of Convoking, they don't have the mana up to flip any of these Incubators. So now I can just back up onto Kavu. They have to chump with Cadus, or it takes 4. They didn't even use Portent Tracker to defend it. So we just threatened to kill this, to flip this battle. See if they have a 1 mana piece of interaction. Actually, if it's a non-creature spell, it could cost up to 4. But if it's a creature, it has to be 1 mana, because they only have 1 land to untap. Alright, we flip our Invasion of Ravnica, or they lose their Cadus. Or they have a non-creature spell. Okay, alright. Looks like it's gonna flip. Is it gonna flip? It is gonna flip. Happy to see that. We will get a 5/5 then. And pass from there. Alright, well, I still don't like our position. Our opponent has a ton of cards. They have certainly got the card advantage, but it could be a lot worse for us. They're Convoking very, very sparingly. They could have dumped a lot more cards out last turn if they just went for Convoke on Meeting of Minds. They could have had both of these flipped by now for sure, minimum. And yeah, yet again, they could have Convoked that battle and then still had all their mana up. And all their creatures untapped to the Cadus if they weren't going to attack with the creatures anyway. But they still have enough mana to flip both the Incubators at least this turn. But I feel like this is a game we could be almost completely dead by now, but we're getting a little bit of breathing room from our opponent just being kind to us here. So I'll take what I can get. I can go ahead and flip this without paying life and still have Corrupted Conviction up, so I will. We'll be playing that during their end step on a Saproling, most likely. So they have the 4 mana thanks to Portent Tracker to flip both of these. So they have a 4/4, a 3/3, a 3/3, and 2 1/1s on blocks. So if I attack with Kavu, it trades 1 for 1 into a 4/4. If I attack with Guild Pact Paragon, it also trades 1 for 1 into a 4/4, because they'll block with a 4/4 and a 3/3. Don't really love my attacks, but gotta break through this board state eventually. I guess I have like a Storm the Seed Core in here and some stuff like that, so I should probably just hold off in case I draw one of those to make Kavu a really good attacker. Or if I draw one of my combat tricks like Arachnoid Adaptation or Bladed Battle Fan. Yeah. I have enough draws that are good during combat. I should probably not just go for the 1/1 Kavu into 4/4 trade. And then the game plan is just play a Glistening Dawn and start attacking with like 7/7s minimum. 8/8s if I hit a land next turn, which I should because I'm going to draw 2 off Corrupted Conviction. Straight to pass turn. No flips. They just have a Sunfall in hand, they're just sandbagging. It's the only thing that makes sense to me. They just don't want to play it to like Glistening Dawn. I don't really think I can get to a winning board state without Glistening Dawning, though. Yeah, I just don't think I can afford to sit on my butt. I guess if my opponent does nothing, we could just wait till we play every land we have before we Glistening Dawn. But we're just giving them more opportunities to draw counterspells. They've already got 5 cards in hand. They're likely to have a counterspell already if they've got them in their deck. 2 8/8s. I guess we can just sit here if they're just going to sit here. It doesn't feel correct, but I guess it plays well against Sunfall, and we've seen no white cards from them yet, so white is probably a splash for something very powerful, such as a Sunfall. That being said, again, if it is a Sunfall, I'm going to have to get to a position that forces them to cast it, which is kind of hard to do without playing Glistening Dawn. Especially when they know that there's a Glistening Dawn, because they've exiled it face up. Alright, they're just going to remove a counter from the Invasion of Gobakon. Glistening Dawn would be for 9/9s now. Get triple block with 10. They'd lose Cadus. Aetherblade Agent would become a 4/4. 1/1 trade into their 4/4. That's at least one less creature they could have if they have a Sunfall coming up. Yeah, I mean, this is a weird game. I have no idea what's going on with my opponent. I'm just going to start attacking with 2 4/4s, I think. Shipping in with what I have right now. Okay, they are going to flip the 4/4. Probably trade into the Mind Stinger here. Trade into the Chomping Kavu. Allow me to draw a card. Okay, I'll take that. Arachnoid Adaptation. Aw, one draw step too late adaptation. Would have been beautiful, though. It's okay, it's not your fault. You beautiful little freaky spider thing. Eyes of Gataxius. Draw a card, get an Incubator. Swamp. Uh-oh. Is this them just not having double black? I guess they already had a Jungle Hollow out, so we already knew they were on black, at least. Wait, what just happened? Invasion's still at 2, right? Oh, they removed one from Pyrulia. I see. Interesting. I'd say Invasion of Gobakon is still at 2, is what I meant to say. There's a Storm the Seed Core. So now I Glistening Dawn, flip both of these during their end step, and then Storm the Seed Core for trample to try to just kill them. Even if they're holding for a Sunfall, we just kill them before they can untap with the Sunfall. That seems like a game plan right there. Double block a 5/5 with 2 3/3s. Double blocking a 4/4 trample with 2 3/3s isn't that bad for me. I guess I'll just send in the Mind Stinger. I don't want to have to play an adaptation this turn, but it would be okay. Okay, we don't have to play it this turn. There's a chump. Alright, let's see if they have a counterspell, but I'm hoping it's like a Sunfall. If it's a counterspell, they've had the mana up forever, because all their Convoke stuff. Storm the Seed Core to potentially try to get there. We'll have 20, 23, 28, 30, 34 plus 4, 38 power on board against 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 38 minus 12 is 26 damage. But they have so many cards, they could have bounce spells and stuff also to survive. One bounce spell would get there, because they just bounce 1, 10, 10. I think I still have to just go for it and make them have it here. We load up the Death Touchers with the +1/+1 counters for Death Touch Trample. Tangled Skyline's a solid draw, giving us a backup creature if they do Sunfall us. Yeah, all our creatures gain Vigilance Trample here. So, load up the Death Touchers. Something like that. And they need some instant speed interaction here, outside of just flipping some incubators. I mean, if they board wipe us, we're still going to lose because they'll have like 4 cards left in hand after a board wipe, but now they need multiple, well, they need at least one piece of instant speed interaction and the board wipe to play next turn to win this game. They need both of those things. But that's only 2 out of their 5 cards, so they could definitely have both of those things. Okay. Trample for 2. Trample for 1. Trample for 0. Trample for 7 there. This is currently well over lethal. Okay. It's time to spend all of our hourglasses making sure that this remains lethal on board. So this is a 5/5 getting blocked by a 1/1 and a 3/3, so we trample for 1. Sure. Here we trample for 4, so that's 5 damage. Trample for 4 because of Death Touch. Over here, it's 9 damage. 10, 11. Plus 7, 18. Plus 10. There's 28. That's super overkill. Even if they have one bounce spell to bounce this 10/10, they take 18. Okay. I allow it if you allow it. Angelic Intervention for protection. They are still very dead. Okay. Storm the Seed Core. Boop. I wish we could see their hand. I wish we could see their hand. I really want to know if they had a Sunfall there. because that was a line that absolutely won the game through a Sunfall. Storm the Seed Core, really getting us there. Potentially. I mean, it all depends on what they... If they didn't have a Sunfall in hand, then I guess we could have just played Glistening Dawn much earlier. But that really worked out well, forcing them to have a lot of instant speed interaction to survive. To where, yeah, at that point, even if they had Nefara's Dispersal to bounce the 10-10, they were still dead to adaptation. And if they didn't have Angelic Intervention and only had Nefara's Dispersal to kill the 10-10, then they were dead even without adaptation. All right. Grinded out that one. Really did not think we were going to do super hot after the early flipped Convoke card, but they just didn't get a ton of value off of it. Didn't get a lot of mana reductions, didn't cast a lot of spells there, just sandbagged, held a lot of stuff up. Really felt like holding it all up for a board wipe or something. And we find the Seed Core to just break through that and kill them before they have an opportunity to wipe the board. So we'll be 2-0 now, heading into Game 3. Here we are on the play for Game 3. This is pretty awkward. We don't want Corrupted Conviction in an opening hand with no creatures, or artifact for that matter, but it has both of our colors, a Vanquish the Weak for early interaction and a Glistening Dawn for late game. Storm the Seed Core. Don't worry about me, I'm just going to draw all my non-creature spells in my opener. It'll all be good, don't worry about it. Yeah, that's another very slow non-creature spell. I guess we're grinding out the late game. Take 2 for now. Don't feel the need to vanquish a Prankster. Oh dear. So they can mill 3 and put one of those cards into their hand. They can start making their lands 3/3s to attack with. And they have perfect mana from the static ability. That's a lot of pretty problematic abilities. It's not the scariest Planeswalker ever, but when we have just 0 early game plays, it's not good for us. If that didn't have hexproof, we could just really win the game here with a Stone Rain on it. But do I vanquish this Prankster now just to lower the amount of blockers they have for this Ren? Maybe? Still doesn't feel worth it. I don't think I'm going to Glistening Dawn next turn, so we're just doing nothing. I guess next turn I get to hold up Vanquish the Weak if I don't draw anything else. Blight Reaper Thallid is the draw. I don't have the mana to play that and hold up Vanquish, or the mana to play it and flip it. Yeah, pretty awkward draws to start this game. Maybe I should have just mulled right from the get-go, but really hard to justify mulling a hand with perfect colors, perfect mana there. So we kind of just need this to not get to 7. And then it's just a bit of a slow card draw spell, every now and then getting them another card with that -2. Yeah, I don't think I really want to vanquish a Prankster that badly. I'll just play the Thallid and hold up the Conviction if they want to try to play removal on our Blight Reaper Thallid. And if they end up tapping out for some weird stuff, we have a chance of just Storm the Seed Core for a 6/6 Vigilance Trample Thallid. Going from there. Oh, the land gets Vigilance. That's not great. Definitely take some damage then. Converter Beast is the play. That's 2 toughness on their board total. Ren's at 6. Thallid will be at 6. They can block with both, let Ren go down to 2. I probably am going to Storm the Seed Core here. That sounds pretty dumb, but I think it's our best play. Especially if I just draw a Chomping Kavu. I guess if I just draw a Chomping Kavu, then we poke Ren for 3. They can't block at all, and then we Storm next turn. Neither one of these spells is going to kill Ren immediately. We're either putting Ren to 2 or putting Ren to 3. Pretty equivalent. Both stop it from ultimating for quite some time. And this way spreads out our board state, which is definitely good.
Please, buy us more time.
I'm pretty tempted to kill a land here. Probably just trade into a combat trick, but it would be a combat trick I'd just trade into on blocks too. Sure. Yeah, I mean, that would be kind of a blowout if I try to like storm the Seed Core, kill Ren, and then they had that combat trick up. So we're pretty fine to trade it off right now. They get to play it for free though, because they got that on tap of Forest, Ren, and Realmbreaker. The Planeswalker's popping off. I mean, I disrespected this Planeswalker, but that thing is actually just nuts this game. They've got the mana up to flip the 5/5. There's no possible way we're even getting close to Ren and Realmbreaker this turn. Drop a Tangled Skyline then, for now. I kind of want to flip a Thallid, so I have Saplings to sack to Glistening Warmonger's Death Trigger. But if I flip Death Reaper Thallid, I'm only holding up a Corrupted Conviction. I mean, that wouldn't be awful. I just feel like Tangled Skyline's probably better. If we hit another land, that would be like a 9/9 Vigilance Trample with Storm the Seed Core if we dump all the counters onto it. Might actually deal with this Ren and Realmbreaker issue that we're having here. Okay, I'm not going to trade Thallid into that. Taking 8 now, down to 13. Good grief. Taking 14 now, sure. They're taking 11 now. Okay. Yeah. 7 toughness. 7 power storm. I needed a land. If I could flip this and storm the Seed Core, I could kill Ren and still have some big creatures. But not without the land, I can't. Yeah. I guess we just flip a 5/5. And we flip a Thallid too. I should have flipped this at instant speed. Running out of time on the clock though. Just wanted to make sure I could get everything done here. Yeah, I think flip the Thallid at sorcery, flip the 5/5 at instant speed on blocks was the play.
My voice beckons to all worlds.
Oh, putting a counter on itself. Okay. Yeah, 3 mana, 3/2 Death Touch is fine. Oh, give it haste. Alright, well, that is one of the most narrow combat tricks I've lost to in a long time. But I guess it'll kill us here. Still basically Ren and Realmbreaker's victory, we just fell really far behind. But I guess technically dying to a Burning Sun's Fury does not feel great. Just needed to hit a little more lands there for the recovery. If I could have flipped the 5/5 and played Storm the Seed Core in the same turn there, that would have been huge. Big Vigilance attacks to try to kill Ren. Still have blocks up there. And then from that point on, use Glistening Dawn. Later, try to recover. Missed a lot of lands. Our opponents did too. They missed a lot of lands, but we had a slow hand with a lot of big late game that we needed to get to and couldn't quite get there against the turn 3 Planeswalker. Certainly happens. 2-1. Main thing we could have done that game was mulliganed. 2-1, heading into game 4. Alright, here we are in game 4. Couple great 2-drop creatures. And some good stuff to do later, if and when we hit some lands. Playing against blue, white, and black, all 3 of those colors at least on turn 2. I don't think there's any format that's gotten me more jealous and frustrated by my opponent's mana bases than this format. Because I'm constantly having these sealed pools with like 1 on-color duel, and then my opponents just always have 3 to 4 colors by turn 4, it feels like. All the multicolored opponents, the ones that aren't playing 2-color, We've played against a lot that have just had 4 colors and skittering surveyors and all the stuff in the world. Meanwhile, our 2-color decks are missing land drop 3 yet again. As soon as we hit land 3, we have Overgrown Pest and Kami of Whispered Hopes, both as ways to hit our 4th mana. Alright, flip the Blight Reaper Thallid, that is pretty good. Probably just trade the Death Toucher off, give them their next Sapperling, but they are not going to attack. And that is another missed land drop. Feels bad, man. Knight Errant of Eos for a 4/4 that's going to draw them 2 more creatures potentially, and it hit twice out of their top 6, 2 creatures with mana value 3 or less. So 5 mana 4/4 Convoke, draw 2 seems powerful. They even drew a Rona off of it, which is a pretty nasty card when they can flip it. I could vanquish that if I had 1 more mana. Hiker's Shade feels like the slowest card we have here. Much as I'd love to have Aetherblade Agent to kill Rona later, can't really sit here and take a million, so I think I trade into the 4/4. Like, Rona's just 1 larger than the 4/4, it's a 5/5 instead of a 4/4. And if they don't immediately flip Rona, we could potentially have Vanquish the Weak up to kill Rona in response to them trying to flip. Or we could just Vanquish the Weak at sorcery speed, because they can only flip Rona at sorcery speed. Alright, play an Aetherblade Agent. Pass turn. That is another missed land drop for us, so we'll have to discard. Probably Storm the Seed Core. At this point, we're going to need to just play down things that can immediately block and trade and removal. I think we're trying to turn the corner with a really late game Stored the Seed Core. If we are turning the corner, it's because we can block and trade with everything and then Glistening Dawn. So draw a card, discard a card with Rona. If they cast a legendary spell, they'll untap Rona. Send in the 3/3 again, down to 14. Corruption of Tawashi. Okay. Discard the 4 mana 4/4, I guess. 6 3-drops at the ready. As soon as I draw 1 land this game. 1 land that wasn't in our opener. Feels like it was too late several turns ago, but they're just playing the long game for value to really assure a grinded out victory here. We could have been dead by now probably if they flipped Rona, but that doesn't mean they're playing bad. They're playing it really safe in case they have like a cheap Wrath or something. They're playing in a way that keeps their hand full no matter what I end up doing. So we're still very functionally dead. We're just not literally dead yet, since they've been playing the card draw route here. Corruption of Tawashi, Mindstinger. Alright, probably about 4 or 5 turns too late here, but the forest has arrived. Yeah, I mean that is too late, because if I play a creature, I'm tapped out, and then I go block here, take 5, 6, 7, go to 1. Actually, that doesn't even count the incubator that's hitting for 4. Yeah, if I play a creature, I have 2 blocks and I die. I go block here, take 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is going to have trample, so we don't block that well. I stop more damage by blocking a 3/3 with my 2/2 than by blocking a Rona with my 2/2. So yeah, would be block the 4/4, block the 3/3, take 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and be dead. So that's what happens if I play any of my 4 creatures. And if I play a removal spell to kill the Rona when they try to flip it, I block the 4/4, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Exactsies. I guess I'm slightly less dead if I do that, and they try to flip Rona. But I'm still dead. I'm just at 0 life instead of negative. So I suppose I'll do that one. No Rona flip. Well, I mean, if they had any kind of interaction, they could have just killed Thallid and we're dead. So I guess I play the way that's better if they don't have any interaction, which would be to tandem takedown, so I could actually trade off with whatever I block with Thallid and kill Rona still. Or I could trade off into Mind Stinger and take down, kill the Blightsower Thallid and just take 4 this turn, but then they still have a Rona to flip. Again, we're really just going through the motions here. They've got a full grip of 7 with all the card draw they've had. They're playing it super safe and super card draw focused. Alright, fair enough. I mean, we died interaction, but we were already dead on board if they just flipped Rona and attacked all. Or not even flipped Rona, just straight up attacked all, period. So it is what it is. Some pretty rough land draws in that last game. The game before as well kept a bit of a slow hand, but I don't think our opening hand was an unreasonable keep in either of our losses. They just both panned out about as poorly as they could have. The first keep was a slower keep, and our opponent happened to have a 3-mana Planeswalker to really punish us for not having early game plays. And then we just missed a lot of land draws towards trying to stabilize the late game with Glistening Dawn style high impact spells. And then the second keep was a 2-lander with 2 really good 2-drops and a bunch of solid 3-mana plays. And we just didn't draw land until far too late, until the point where our opponent could have already lethaled us a couple times over. So it is what it is. Not much we can do about those 2 losses outside of decide to mulligan, but again, I don't think that those keeps were incorrect. We just ran into the games where we got punished for those keeps. I think still on average you're supposed to keep that, drawing cards at random from the deck more often than not. They end up being decent enough hands to potentially come back from there. Probably better than our average 6-card hands. But they just did not play out well for us today, so really sad way to end it. Kind of some non-games, especially the final game, really. I mean, we cast like 3 spells all game. So sad way to end it. I think this deck was pretty cool. It was pretty powerful. The games where we got to hit lands consistently on curve, we got to do some really nice stuff. Our first loss was pretty nasty because they had the really strong Planeswalker, but we still got to play Magic overall for the most part, and I don't think the deck functioned that terribly there. So overall, don't think the deck was horrible. Don't think any of the gameplay or mulligan decisions were horrible. Just got a bit punished for the keeps here. Got the rough end of the luck spectrum for the hands that we ended up keeping. Certainly happens, certainly a part of Magic, but that is going to be 2-2 for today's Qualifier Play-In Event, and that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons very much for supporting this channel, as well as thanking you for watching the videos. If you want to see some more of them, you can always like, comment, and subscribe. That'll tell the YouTube algorithm to send you more videos in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.